And welcome back to all my Bi-Conics wrestling fanatics out there, and welcome to another edition of Beat the Clock TV review for AEW Collision. I am your host, Mikey, filling in for Adolfo as he is on assignment elsewhere, but I am excited to bring you more reviews of AEW Collision, and this one was actually a really fun one. So, without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. We begin Collision this week with a AEW Tag Team Championship match, which sees challengers Big Bill and Brian Cage taking on champions FTR. Now, I was going to be completely honest for this. I wasn't exactly sure how the chemistry of both teams were going to act when you have FTR, who is your independent darlings and does a lot of wrestling, comparing against Big Bill and Brian Cage when they are so big but very agile. And honestly, this was a really, really fun match to begin with. This was a better back and forth than I thought it was going to be. Both teams pulled off a lot of fun stuff. I love seeing Brian Cage and Big Bill use their size advantage on FTR, and FTR having to work twice as hard to chop down their bigger opponents. But ultimately, FTR gets the victory here to retain the AEW Tag Team Championships. The more interesting thing to occur is what happens after said match, where FTR cuts a promo in the ring talking about how they have faced some of the greatest tag teams of their careers, the trilogy with the Briscoe brothers, the stellar match they had on Collision against Bullet Club Gold, but they proceed to call out that they have one more match in their trilogy with the Young Bucks, and they would like to face them in a rubber match at All In. So it seems that we're setting up for that match. It has yet to be confirmed, but ultimately, I am here for this match. Next, we get a backstage interview with Bullet Club Gold, specifically Jay White, as he basically runs down the fact that he is going to destroy Metalik, his opponent for tonight, and that Bullet Club Gold is going to continue to build momentum. We get our next match, which is for the TBS Championship, where we see challenger Mercedes Martinez taking on champion Chris Statlander. Y'all, this match was so good. I love Mercedes. I love Chris, and both of them, I wasn't sure how their chemistry was going to work out, but both of them killed it in the ring. This was a nice back and forth. One spot in particular that made me pop was when Chris was like hung onto the ropes and literally did a backbreaker on Mercedes while she was still hanging upside down. Chris picks up the win here, but we continue this feud as after the match, Mercedes beats up Chris Statlander, and who should come down to the ring but Diamante, which I'm kind of a little confused by, given the fact that Diamante is usually shown on Ring of Honor predominantly, but it seems she's going to be on Collision, which is fine, I guess. But again, that goes back to what me and JBL have been saying about Ring of Honor. You need to establish your roster and stop having everyone go everywhere. But Diamante comes out to what it looks like at first to confront Mercedes, but then she decides to beat up on Chris. And then Willow Nightingale comes down for the save for these two, which sets up a match next week on Collision where we'll see Mercedes and Diamante taking on Willow and Chris Statlander. Honestly, if this is the women you're going to be featuring heavily on Collision, I am here for it. Give us more than one women's match, though, Tony Khan. We've already had the Tony Khan Accountability Quarter twice, so I'm hoping that between now and All Out, actually Grand Slam, I said, let's book that women division a little bit better. But I'm excited for this feud, and I love all the women involved, so we'll see how this progresses. Another women's segment that I enjoyed was this backstage interview with Toni Storm with Tony Schiavone. So Toni Storm is distraught due to the fact that she lost the AEW Women's Championship on Dynamite to Hikaru Shida. And this is kind of giving me very diva, drama queen, starlet vibes, where she's in a robe and she has hairpins in her hair. And ultimately, she's not taking the loss very well, but she says in the interview that she'll continue forward. I'm interested to see how this continues out. I hope this is not a one and done thing. I would like to see Toni Storm just lose all sense of reasoning and logic and just become a mess where she starts out taking out women in the women's division. So we shall see what happens with that. Next, we get a squash match where Serpentico doesn't even get any offense in as he takes on Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe just squashes Serpentico. This match is not even like 45 seconds long. Samoa Joe beats up and makes Serpentico tap. And Joe cuts a promo where he literally is calling out CM Punk to have a match with him at All In, which would be awesome. But CM Punk has yet to confirm said match, so hopefully we will get some confirmation as we continue to build toward All In. Next we get a promo video package, whatever you want to call it, of Andrade del Idolo, who says that he fights for everything and that his feud with House of Black is not over. So I would love to see House of Black and Andrade continue to feud. And I want to see, if the rumors are to be believed, Andrade versus Malachi at All In or even All Out. And I would be here for it regardless. We end our one of Collision this week where we get a segment from the Acclaim sitting down with Tony Schiavone. They recap what has happened the last couple of weeks with Mr. Daddy Ass himself, Billy Gunn, retiring and saying that he's going to be retired and that the Acclaimed are going to continue to carry his boots, and that they thank him for guiding them through the tag team and trios division like a mentor. And honestly, this was kind of a nice change for the Acclaim. Normally, they are their joking selves. They're kind of comedic wrestlers. They like to talk smack, and then they Max Caster with his raps. But it was nice to see some dimension with the Acclaimed, and that they're going to continue forward and with Billy Gunn as their inspiration, and that hopefully they respect him, that they love him, and that they're going to push on forward and continue to do great things in AEW. So it was really nice to see this change of character for the Acclaim. I mean, they've been in faces for a while, but to see this extra dimension added to them, that they have heart underneath it all, just makes me love and support both Max Caster and Anthony Bowens even more. And I do hope that eventually the Acclaimed will find their way back to the tag team championships and have another run, because I love them. They are so over with the crowd, and hopefully it's nothing but good things from here on forth. Next, we begin hour 2 with a very stellar match for the AEW's Trios Championships, where we see House of Black defend their titles against the team of Darius Martin, Action Andretti, and Lee Johnson. As with these rules with the House of Black Trios Championship match, the challenging teams can make any request and add a stipulation to the match. And the challengers chose that Julia Hart must be banned from ringside, which was interesting as a choice, but ultimately it didn't matter. This was a fun back and forth pace. Obviously, House of Black being hard hitters and doing all the heavy lifting, while the team of Darius, Action, and Lee doing all your typical high-flying lucha libre style stuff. But ultimately, House of Black gets the win here. They retain the championships, and we get confirmation later in the show that they will be defending their titles against CMFTR. So Punk and FTR are going to challenge for the Trios Championships. Okay. So I love FTR. I love CM Punk, but I hope they do not put the titles on that team. They don't need to be carrying all these extra belts. I think Ricky Starks or somebody is going to come in that match, and it's going to cause a distraction, which will make House of Black win. But we shall see. I just hope they don't take the titles off, because I feel that House of Black really hasn't got a chance to do anything crazy with their championship reign, and really hasn't had a amazing feud. So hopefully that changes soon, and that we don't take the titles off of them, because then I'm afraid House of Black is going to lose some steam and they're going to get lost in the shuffle. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Next, we have a backstage segment where QTV meets with Powerhouse Hobbs. QT Marshall says that he wants to have Powerhouse back in QTV, and he offers him a present of gold chains, and that he's going to set up this amazing comeback. Hobbs says that he don't need nobody. He can do this on his own. He doesn't need QTV, but he thanks him for the change and snatches the jewelry and walks off the interview. I'm kind of glad that QT... I'm kind of glad that Hobbs decided not to go back with QTV because I feel like he was being wasted there, just like I think of Johnny TV being wasted with this faction. But what are we doing with QTV? They're kind of just like in the mid card shuffle, and they're not really doing much. The last time we saw them in a match is they lost against the Acclaim and Billy Gunn. So I don't know what we're doing with them. I have expressed on multiple AEW reviews that QTV is not necessarily my favorite faction or segment each week, but I'm hoping that none of the talent gets lost in the shuffle, and I still am a supporter that Johnny TV needs to get away from them as quick as possible and build him as a star, because I'm afraid that he's going to lose his shine. Then we get a backstage interview. Tony Schiavone interviews Christian Cage, and probably my favorite promo from the night. Christian Cage is being an absolute douche of a heel, and I kind of like it. He's freaking hilarious. And now we got answers to when Jack Perry on Dynamite jumped to the crowd and was using a child as a shield. We come to find out that that's Christian's daughter. His daughter is so funny and so cute. I love her. But Christian cuts a promo saying that he's the greatest TNT championship at all times, and that he's going to defend it, and that nobody can touch him. And during this interview, his daughter chimes in asking if she can hold the belt, and Christian's like, no, go find your mother. And then as she gets off camera, Christian is like, security, get her. She doesn't have credentials. Escort her out the building. It's funny chicken shit heel type of vibes, and I love it. Tony Schiavone is trying to tell Christian that he's a horrible person. Christian interrupts and completes the promo. So on the one hand, these promos are amazing, and I love Christian Cage being a heel. This is where he's strongest is. My only issue is supposedly we're getting him versus Darby Allin. Well, no, it's not supposedly. We are getting Christian Cage versus Darby Allin at All Out in September for the TNT Championship. And right now, Darby is kind of dealing with Mogul Embassy with Swerve and AR Fox and all that good stuff. But he and Christian have really yet to interact to properly build this storyline out for the TNT Championship. So I'm hoping that they have some sort of interaction in the coming weeks, because while the match is probably going to be good and going to be amazing, AEW's biggest problem for me this year has been that their storylines outside of the big ones, they're not necessarily being executed very well. So I'm really hoping that this feud picks up and the storytelling gets built properly, because the match is going to be phenomenal. But I want to say that everything about the feud, from the match itself to the build, was incredible. Because right now, the outside of Impact Wrestling, as cheesy as their storylines may be sometimes, they're the only promotion right now that is building proper stories that lead to amazing matches. Next, we get a fun little match between Metalik taking on Jay White of Bullet Club Gold. The Guns are on commentary, and I just want to say I want them on commentary as much as possible because they're hilarious. I'm kind of happy that the Guns joined Bullet Club Gold, because the Guns plus Juice Robinson and Jay White are amazing as a quartet, and I love the shenanigans and just them being absolute like chads and bros about it is freaking hilarious. I thought this match was a lot of fun, and of course, Jay White picks up the victory. I hope they keep the cardboard cutout of him because it is hilarious. They're pulling shenanigans and are being very trolls in wrestling, and I'm here for it. Before we get to the main event, we get some bumpers for Dynamite and Collision, which looks to be a lot of fun. I am surprised to see that Anna Jay is going to be fighting Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Champion. So I'm like, while I appreciate the build up and that there's history between Hikaru and Anna Jay, it still falls into the trope that we're just throwing women to the champion to continue to build the champion's record without a proper storyline. So I think the match is going to be really great. I just hope that shenanigans are not involved and whatnot, but that's going to be fun. And then, of course, we got some other stellar matches for Dynamite and Collision for next week. Then we get to our main event, which sees Ricky Starks taking on, I guess, champion, if we want to call it, CM Punk, for the Real World Championship with special guest referee Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Y'all, this match was a lot of fun. I love to see Punk kind of lean into the heel tendencies, like making fun of Ricky. The crowd, even though Ricky's supposed to be a heel, is absolutely behind him. I thought this was a nice back and forth match. It went on for a good chunk of time. I think it was like 20, 25 minutes or so. The match started with Ricky trying his best not to cheat, but ultimately that doesn't last long. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is being impartial as best as he can because he's going for both men when they're doing something they're not supposed to. But the finishing sequence sees Ricky Starks pin Punk with the foot on the ropes, but the Steamboat takes the foot off the ropes for Ricky. Ricky gets upset and confronts the Steamboat, which allows Punk to roll him up for the 1-2-3, and your winner and still real world champion is CM Punk. Overall, I thought the match was very interesting. It was a lot of fun, and this was a pretty good, decently paced match. Now, I know I'm probably going to get some heat for this. I like Punk. I'm not the biggest fan of his, but I appreciate his work. I think this was really good because this was a nice back and forth, and I am all here for Ricky Starks being heel, which solidified his heel turn when after the match, he takes Ricky the Dragon Steamboat into the ring, takes off his belt, and begins whooping him like a Mexican mom. It was hilarious to watch. And it was really interesting, which causes Punk to grab a chair and chase Ricky out. So it seems that this feud between Punk and Ricky is not over. I am hoping to see more matches from it. I think Ricky is going to play a part in this Trios Championship next week on Collision. So I am interested. I'm hoping that we get this feud to end up being at All Out in Chicago, which makes a lot of sense because that's where Punk's at. But we shall see. And it's weird because Ricky's the heel, so we're supposed to boo him, but I've become a fan of Starks for quite some time, and it's hard for me to want to hate the guy because of the potential he has and just how much he's been doing great things in AEW. But I'm excited to see where this feud goes, and for right now, Punk is still your real world champion, so we'll see where that goes and how long that title reign will last. That is going to be it for my review of AEW Collision this week. Overall, I give this a solid 8 out of 10. I keep saying this every Collision review amongst the other hosts as well as Adolfo and just other wrestling fans. It's interesting, and again, because it's new, so that might be some bias there because it's a new product and it's different. But every week, Collision feels like it's being written and booked different than Dynamite is, and I can't exactly explain why that is, but Collision just feels so refreshing. Now, I'm still going to hold out because the big test is to see how we're building these storylines in Collision and what ends up being at All In and All Out, and then I will give a retrospective to see if this is just some recency bias because I'm getting tired of how we're booking Dynamite, or if we're onto something with Collision. That is going to be it for my review. If you like to see other long-form reviews, make sure to check out all the other reviews we got here on the YouTube channel, where we have all reviews that cover all the shows, from all the WWE shows to AEW to Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor. Make sure to also follow us on the social medias to stay up to date when these said reviews and videos go live, as well as getting some peeks behind the curtain by the behind the scenes stuff and just some overall shenanigans and tomfoolery. We have a good time here. If you also want to look for something different, you can also check us out at the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast, where we just talk anything and everything wrestling. You can find that where all podcasts can be found: Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. Like, we are pretty much everywhere, and it's a good time. We will have our official SummerSlam review up tomorrow on Monday, and boy howdy, do a lot of us have some feelings. I'm excited, and we're going to have our first official guest reviewer stop in tomorrow, so you're just going to have to watch that to see who that is. But as always, this has been Mikey from me and all of the Bi-Conics hosts. Remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, adios, sayonara, and thanks for watching. See you later.